So today we'll talk about the osteology of the femur. The femur is the longest and the strongest bone of the thigh. It is a typical long bone which has upper end, lower end and a shaft in between. Okay. So the upper end of the femur has head. Then you have the neck of the femur, a large elevation which is present on the lateral side called greater trochanter, a smaller elevation present medially which is called lesser trochanter. These two trochanters connected anteriorly by a line which is called intertrochanteric line, and posteriorly they are connected by thickening which is called as intertrochanteric crest. So features here: head, neck, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, intertrochanteric line and intertrochanteric crest. Okay, now we'll talk about the details of each of them. The head of the femur is spherical and it has a depression in the center. This depression is called fovea capitis, or just depression or pit of the head of the femur. The head articulates with the acetabulum of the hip bone to form the hip joint. Now the head is connected to the rest of the upper end by the neck. The neck of the femur is different from the necks of the other bones, in which you can see that it is making an angle with the shaft, and this angle that the neck makes with an angle with the shaft is called as neck shaft angle. The neck is longer, it has upper border here and a lower border, anterior surface and posterior surface. The upper border is short and it meets at the greater trochanter. The lower border is longer and it meets at the lesser trochanter. The anterior surface is flat and the posterior surface is concave. The anterior surface of the neck reaches the intertrochanteric line and the posterior surface of the neck reaches till the intertrochanteric crest. Okay, so that is about the neck. The important feature of the neck is that the vessels that are going to supply the head of the femur are going to travel through the neck of the femur, and therefore fractures of the neck of the femur have a clinical significance, that there can be disruption of the blood supply to the head of the femur which can result in avascular necrosis. Okay, so that is about the neck. And the neck shaft angle has a purpose of allowing the femur to move freely without touching each other. Okay, so that is about the neck. Then you have a large elevation which is on the lateral side. This is called as greater trochanter, which you can feel here. This greater trochanter has features which you should understand, because each of these features has muscle attachments. So this part of the greater trochanter is called as the apex. Then there is this surface which is called as the anterior surface. There is a lateral surface, a medial surface. Okay, so the greater trochanter has an apex. There is an anterior surface, a lateral surface, a medial surface. Okay, and if you can look here at the medial surface, there is a depression which is called as trochanteric fossa. So these points are important about the greater trochanter to be understood. Lesser trochanter is a smaller elevation which is present on the medial side, which has an apex here, and this is the base of the lesser trochanter. Now these two trochanters are connected anteriorly by the intertrochanteric line, which is a rough ridge which is going to connect these two trochanters anteriorly, and posteriorly these trochanters are connected to each other by an elevated area which is called as intertrochanteric crest. The intertrochanteric crest has an elevation in the center. This elevation in the center of the intertrochanteric crest is called as the quadrate tubercle. Okay, so these are the features of the upper end. So we have seen the head, the neck, the greater trochanter, the lesser trochanter, intertrochanteric line and intertrochanteric crest. So this is about the upper end of the femur. Now talking about the shaft of the femur, we will look that the shaft of the femur is long. It has an anterior convexity. So the anterior surface of the shaft is convex. And the second thing that you should know about the shaft is that when you place the femur in anatomical position, the shaft is slightly slanted. Both these condyles are going to touch the ground and the shaft will be slightly slanted. It will not be straight. Okay, so the shaft has an anterior surface which is convex. There are three borders and three surfaces to the shaft, and these three borders and three surfaces are only well marked in the middle one third, the part which I am holding here. So the three borders are this border here, which is towards the head. This is the medial border. Then you have this border which is here, which is called as the lateral border. And then you can see in the center here, there is a thick ridge which is there in the center. This ridge is called as the linea aspera, and this forms the posterior border in the middle one. Now it is important to understand that this linea aspera is going to diverge into two parts here. In the upper part it will have two lips, and in the lower part again it is going to diverge into two parts. Now these divergence of the linea aspera in the upper one third is here. You can see a rough elevation here. This is called as the gluteal tuberosity. The linea aspera will go towards the lateral side of the gluteal tuberosity, forming lateral lip of gluteal tuberosity, and on the medial side it will form what is called as a spiral line. Okay, and in the lower one third the linea aspera diverges to form lateral supracondylar line and medial supracondylar line. Okay, so in the middle one third of the shaft we will have medial border, lateral border and the posterior border, which is the linea aspera. In the upper one third you will have the medial border, the lateral lip of gluteal tuberosity and the spiral line, and in the lower one third you will have medial border, lateral supracondylar line and medial supracondylar line. Now in between these borders there are the surfaces, the constants, the three surfaces which are present in all the three parts of the anterior surface, which is going to lie between the medial and the lateral borders. Then you will have the medial surface, which is going to lie between the medial and the posterior border. The lateral surface, which lies between the lateral and the posterior border. But there is going to be an additional surface here. In the upper part, this is the additional posterior surface, and an additional surface here in the lower part, which is called as the popliteal surface. So the shaft of the femur has three borders and three surfaces in the middle one third, but there will be four borders and four surfaces in the upper one third, and four borders and four surfaces in the lower one third. Okay, so that is the pupillarity of the shaft of the femur. Now talking about the lower end of the femur, you will see that the lower end of the femur has two elevations which are called as the two condyles. This larger elevation the larger elevation here is called as the medial condyle, and the smaller elevation is called lateral condyle. Both these condyles are separated from each other anteriorly by the intercondylar notch here, and posteriorly they are separated from each other by the intercondylar fossa. Now each of these condyles has an elevation here. If I can show you an elevation here, this elevation here is called as the lateral epicondyle, and similarly there will be an elevation here for the medial condyle, which will be called as medial epicondyle. So this is the lateral epicondyle and this is the medial epicondyle. Just above the medial epicondyle you can see another elevation here which is very important, and this elevation is called as the adductor tubercle. Okay, and on the lateral condyle you have a groove here which is there on the lateral surface of the lateral condyle. This groove is called as popliteal groove. Okay, so these are the features which are important. I have stressed only about the important osteological features of the femur, and I hope you have understood this. Thank you.